Coming to you from the Loading Ready Run orbiting underground moon base, it's the LRRcast. Getting more and more musical every time. It's the 20th anniversary throwback edition. I can't remember what we actually called it. I'm Graham.
I'm Paul. And this time we are talking about 2006 to 2007.
Yeah.
Very important years in the Loading Ready Run canon.
Oh yeah. No, this was a lot. A lot happened in the. It's actually wild to me thinking about it now, looking at sort of the list of the big sort of highlights that this was so early comparatively.
Yeah.
I want to say we started the sketches off strong. The season 3 opener was Pimp My Chair, which I still think is just one of the best parodies that we've done. Because a good parody has to come from a position of love, and we watched a lot of Pimp My Ride.
Yeah.
And we put a lot of work into making that chair look real cool. When Morgan used that chair, boy, until that fur went flat, like it was
longer than you probably should have.
Yeah.
Now you can put out fires wherever you go with your blazing hot chair. You've officially been pimped. Church.
He kept the fur on it, which is the funny thing. I mean, sure, we stapled it, but it's like you didn't have to keep. Anyway, it was really funny. We made a chair look like a pickup artist hat.
Shake hands with danger.
But there was a lot of really solid jokes in that one.
I feel like I suck.
James sucks.
So please, LRR, please pimp my chair.
I was realizing that, we did these, we talked about it in the last episode as well. We did these, season opener, season finale. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like we took a break.
No.
During, there wasn't there wasn't a season start, season end.
Yeah.
It was just beginning of October, middle of October, or whatever.
I mean, I think we didn't talk about this last episode, but I'm pretty sure that happened after the season 1 finale. That my dad was probably like, "So what happens now?" And we're like, "Oh, I'm gonna do another video next week." It's just a break point. It doesn't mean anything. It's it's the internet. But yeah, I guess that was kind of funny. We do that now. Now in 2023, we do sort of seasonal content.
Yeah.
But which is a great way to make things feasible and doable and all that good stuff. But yeah, this was there was a lot in these years. In the summer of 2006, we put on a show called Loading Ready Live, which is a good name, which is why we use it.
Yeah, this was the first thing called Loading Ready Live.
Yeah, one of 3.
Because it was Loading Ready Run Live.
Yeah.
This is probably the most accurately named loading of the various things that have been named Loading Ready Live.
Yeah, I'm wearing the shirt.
Oh yeah. Oh, nice. That is actually a solid shirt design.
I like this one a lot.
I still really like that one.
Yeah. We reused a variant of it for our Kickstarter years later, which I'll probably dig out of the archive at some point. This was so the Fringe. We decided, what if we did a live show at the Fringe Festival?
Keep in mind that everything you see up on stage here tonight is being performed by trained comedians. Do not try any of this humor at home. In fact, you may find the show so hilarious that you become dizzy or disoriented. Should this happen to you, please remain calm and simply tuck your head between your knees and read the family circus cartoons we have provided for you in the program. The feeling of hilarity should soon pass.
Because it turns out anybody can do a show at the Fringe. The criteria is get there early enough. I think they've changed it now. I think it's a little bit more lottery based, but it used to be show up early in the morning.
Right. I thought there was also sort of a lottery thing, but
I can't remember. So I remember being there. I don't know I think someone else was there, but I remember waiting in line in the morning and I was like, "So yeah, we'd like to do this thing." And they're like, "Okay." And we're like, "Okay." And then how do we? And they're like, "No, we'll be in touch. We'll assign you a theater, but you got to find your own text and everything." I'm like,
so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you basically, they give you a theater and then and like some basic lighting stuff.
Yeah.
So what we've done is, this was at Rob's suggestion, we've got 2 little mics hanging from the truss. And there's going to be 2 more mics, which you can't see right now, actually sitting on the stage. And the whole proceedings will be watched over by our mascot, the St. Andrew's Shark, with dope 80s glasses. And with his blessing, the show will be a success.
And that's about it. Mm-hmm. And you sort of do all the other things.
Yeah.
But
If it's sort of in the same way as they talk about lawyers on a crime drama, if you cannot get your own technician, one will be provided for you by the court. In our case, I asked my high school friends Rob and Luke and Chris actually from the theater program that I was in at Oak Bay High School, because this was sort of like they were still kind of working in those kind of, none of them do this now, but they were still kind of working in that industry a little bit.
Yeah.
And so they came in to do the tech work. But this was sort of, we've often said that the live show is where sort of Loading Ready Run crystallized as a crew.
Right. Because in order to do a live show, you have to like practice and you have to rehearse.
Then again, cigarettes have never hurt anybody.
Great. Let's go to Farmer Joe's place and smoke them behind the combine harvesters. Don't smile during this.
Yes. Very good.
Anyway.
I was gonna say the way we did videos, but it's the way we do videos now. Even like there's not a lot of rehearsal, right?
Yeah.
You have the camera running and you do a number of takes, until you get it the way you want it.
We'll usually do like a table read, but like just before filming. Like
Yeah.
we'll read through the script just before we film.
But you don't have to like memorize all your lines.
No.
Because you're doing it like line by line, or you have somebody to prompt you or whatever. But obviously for the live show, we have to actually memorize all the lines.
Yeah, because in the early years, actually, just to sort of set the kind of stage for this, it was like how would we do the weekly videos? Well, just Paul and I would get together, often after work, because during the summer we worked at the same place. Then I was at university, and so we had nothing else going on.
Yeah.
Right. So we would just hang out and be like, oh, we should work on this week's video. Sometimes in one famous instance, the video "The Mirror."
I know this might sound a little weird.
Yeah.
I'm in the mirror.
You're messing with me.
No, really, I'm in the mirror.
We had a set upload time, and we were like, we got to stick to our upload time, because consistency is important for those listening at home.
Sure. We uploaded every Friday.
Yeah, it was Fridays initially, and so it was it was Thursday night.
Yeah.
And we didn't have anything. And so I was at Paul's place, and we'd been doing this stuff we normally do, walking to Cook Street Village for some snacks and then watching whatever British comedy we were watching. And then we were like, okay, we gotta come up with something. So we wrote The Mirror, shot it at Paul's place, and I went home and edited it, and I stayed up, and I don't know how until what dark hour, and then got it online.
I want up now. Out. Move. Come through.
Probably less than like 18 hours from not even from from conception of the idea to uploading.
Yeah.
Which I mean, again, maybe isn't that impressive anymore because of, vlogging and stuff.
Yeah. But again, it was very loose. But for the live show, we were like, all right, everyone who's in the live show, we need to do weekly meetings.
Right.
We gotta work that in. That's the costumes for upgrade.
Yeah, I think James can wear a white sheet. That's what we said.
Yeah.
We just need to get
A white and a red
sheet.
fabric.
A red. Just go to fabric ladies.
Zellers. Go to Zellers. Sheets are $8 for her.
And that was the first time that we ever had done weekly meetings.
Right. And then and after the live show, we kept that going.
We kept the weekly
so
meetings.
we actually hey, let's here are scripts.
Yeah.
That we can all look over and make recommendations on.
No one tells you how to run your own fringe show. But they also don't tell you best practices. Like how normally fringe shows are an hour. Nobody told us that. So we were like, well, how long is a fringe show supposed to be? How long is a thing when you go to the theater? How long is, I don't know, like a movie? So we did a 90-minute show. which is longer than we needed to, as it turns out.
Yeah. It had like an assortment of sketches, like sketches that were videos that we sort of readjusted a little bit to work live.
Yeah, there was some stuff that was videos we'd done that were adapted for live, and there was some stuff that was written just for this show because it could only be done live. And in one situation, there was a thing that was, there was a sketch written for the show that eventually we were like, wait, we should just do that as a video. And then we sort of reverse engineered it. And then it ended up in the finale, which was a musical number, which with the lead in of pretending that it was an improv thing, but it turns out it was actually a musical number, which I very much enjoyed.
A location. Souk? Souk? Okay. A farrier in Souk. Now, this box here, just so we're clear, you have no idea what's in this box. Is that correct?
That's right. We have no idea there's a rubber chicken in the box.
All right. So, a farrier in Souk. Go.
So apparently he was a farrier from Souk.
That's a horrible joke. Look over there.
Where? Why did you hit me with the chicken? Ouch, that really hurt you, bastard.
The crew at the time, I guess, it was myself and Paul, Jeremy, Matt, James, Bill, and Morgan. Kathleen still lived in Vancouver at this time, so she actually wasn't in the show.
Well, she was in Vancouver at this point, eh?
Yeah. And so she came to see the show, which was nice, but, wasn't able to actually sort of be involved in it. So we had Ash in the show for 2 sketches, one particularly for the 30 minutes or less,
right?
As sort of the femme fatale.
The woman opened the door. Apparently they were making sousaphones a lot better these days. She had legs that started at her feet and went all the way up to her hips. They were also very nice.
Jer's girlfriend at the time, now wife, Tally, did our sort of like stage makeup.
Right.
And like that was, I've now named, I think, basically everybody who was involved in it. Funny thing for me is that we decided that because there were some bits in the show where we're playing ourselves, not in a character. We're in the same sort of like the way that we do for Commodore Hustle, where we're playing ourselves. And so we needed like a costume for when we're just being ourselves, like in the finale, and we determined that it was going to be the shirt that I'm wearing for the show and jeans. And I didn't own jeans. I didn't wear jeans. I didn't like jeans. I had always worn khakis. I don't know why. I don't know who let me dress like this for my whole life up to that point. But then I was like, okay, fine. Under protest, I was outvoted on this. I did not like the idea, but everyone else was like, Graham, everyone wears jeans. Just buy some jeans. And so I bought some jeans, and I was like, okay, these are actually pretty comfortable.
The revelation for young Graham Stark.
It was. I just like that I was so like, no, and everyone else was like, no, we are outvoting you on this. Stop being an idiot. But yeah, we would meet up at UVic.
Yeah,
just in empty classrooms, and
yeah, we would just like claim an empty classroom.
Yeah.
Tonight's performance of Loading Ready Live will begin in just a few minutes. But before we get started, I just have to go over some routine safety announcements. Please keep in mind that everything you see up on stage here tonight is being performed by trained comedians. In the event of a water landing, something has gone terribly wrong, as we are in a theater. Should this event occur, however, the audience member to your left may be used as a flotation device.
Like we ran the show, and we memorized the whole thing, which was impressive because like one of them was I don't know why we decided to do this one, but one of them was like the Combine Harvesters sketch, which like famously at the time had been one that while filming the video version of the sketch, Bill had a notoriously bad time remembering his lines for.
Combine. Great. We'll go smoke. Okay, great. We'll go smoke them behind the. Great. We'll go down to Farmer Joe's place and smoke them behind the combine harvesters.
All right, much more.
Okay, great. We'll go to Farmer Joe's place and smoke them behind the combine harvesters. Thanks. I needed it. We'll go down to Farmer Joe's place and smoke them behind the combine harvesters.
Farmer's Joe's?
Say
Farmer's Joe's.
We'll go to Farmer Joe's place and smoke it behind the... No!
But we did it live, and it worked really well.
Yeah.
And like not all of us had stage experience.
No.
I'd say about half of us, maybe.
Yeah. I didn't really.
Yeah, well, I mean, you had performance with choir stuff.
Yeah. But I was more like, I tended to be more like backstage stuff. So
yeah, but it worked. It worked really well.
Yeah,
honestly,
it was fun.
And it was successful enough. Here's what I consider an excellent metric for a very first time Fringe show. We did not lose money. We made just enough to take everyone out to dinner afterwards.
We didn't lose money, and we were like still friends afterwards.
Yes, that's the key. We didn't lose money, and we were on speaking terms afterwards.
And
success.
So, and we also were like, okay, we're a primarily video group. We should get this thing shot.
Yep.
And so we got somebody to come and film it for us. And they did a very bad job or something.
The audio was not great.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am the great Spumoni, small, medium, and large. I'm here to astound you this evening with my wondrous powers of cognition.
And it was shot on a Canon, which we didn't have a way to import the footage for afterwards. We have digitized some of it.
And it was like, the color was like really wonky.
It's super unfortunate.
And so we were like, because we wanted to like release it on the website, and we were like, we can't release this.
It's on the.
I don't think it's ever been released anywhere, has it?
The season 11 DVD has the finale number.
Oh, okay.
It has the why did you hit me with the chicken?
But yeah,
which,
it was
which Andy helped with actually.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was in the summer
Yeah.
of 2006.
And then in the winter of 2006, the PlayStation 3 was released.
Yeah.
I have 3 PS3s.
So
where did this idea come from?
We were coming up with an idea for a different. We were trying to write a different video.
I believe that. That sounds like us.
And somehow we got onto the. I have 3 PS3s.
I have 1 in the living room, 1 in my bedroom, and 1 in the bathroom.
We just basically we were trying to write another video because this was at Christmas.
Yeah.
And we were trying to write. I think this was the same year that we did the It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay, fine. Screw you then. I'm gonna go find Mike.
I know where we can find him.
All right.
I think so.
Christmas episode.
That makes sense because this was when I was living with Morgan and Bill.
And so we were trying to write. I think we were trying to write that, and we just kept making each other laugh with the I have 3 PS3s thing. And so we're like, okay, I guess we better do that as a video. And so yeah, we recorded that. We had 1 PS3.
Yeah.
We also had 1 PS3 case, like one, and then 1 just cardboard PS3. And
I think we did have a cardboard PS3, but I think in the video when you see the 3 PS3s, I think 2 of them are legit.
Let me put it like this. Imagine you have 1 cake, and I have 3 cakes. This is like that, except you have no cakes, and I have 3 PS3s.
And then one of them is we had a friend who was a manager at an electronics boutique, GameStop, and they had like the stand-up unit that you could go and play in the store where the actual hardware was like under the thing in the back, but they had under like a Lexan sheath, they had like what looked like a PS3, but it was really just the case from it. And he let us just take it overnight as long as we definitely returned it first thing in the morning. And so we had 3 things that looked like PS3s, and we filmed that all in a night on launch night.
Yeah. And then, so.
And uploaded it as soon as possible.
And of course that got super popular.
Yeah.
Lots of people watched that. And lots of people watched it, which I think is sort of a new thing, was that lots of people watched it who didn't necessarily know any of our other stuff.
Yeah.
And possibly didn't know that it was supposed to be a joke, which just seems hard to imagine.
Yeah, it does seem hard to imagine, but then this is when we had to sort of really contend with the fact that a lot of people have no imagination and aren't funny.
Or that people are like, I mean, the other thing is that like, because this went up on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you realize that like a lot of the people might be very, very young too.
Yeah.
They might be like, whatever, 12-year-olds or something. So anyway, but so the comments on that
God.
were, and maybe it's not so bad maybe it's not so bad in comparison to stuff these days, but there was like the most vitriolic comments that I'd ever seen on stuff, because at the time actually I had hurt my hand because of a unrelated accident, and so my hand was in a cast, and so people were like, he's what happened to his hand, or I'm going to break his other hand. I'm going to smash his face, break his glasses so that the shards of glass go into his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You're ugly. You're disgusting. I'm going to kill you. Give me $200.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff like that. The other cool thing, though, was that people did their own sort of parody
versions of it. Yeah.
of it. Parody of something that's a comedy is kind of weird anyway. Like it usually doesn't work, but so people just sort of redid it themselves basically. Yeah. Although my favorite one, and we actually included a bunch of them on the DVD of this year.
Yeah.
We got asked people for permission to and my favorite one was like somebody was like, if you see this spaghetti graph that I've made, it was like, it was like the graph from the video, except it was made from like, pieces of like macaroni glued to a piece of card.
Well, boy, the comments have really turned around. Just looking at some recent comments on that upload. And this type of comedy was light years ahead of its time. Mm-hmm. Or, what a Chad. Big improvements, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that now that every time Sony releases a new console, this happened a little bit for the PS4, but even more so for the PS5, you just see people out there being like, where's that guy with the PS3s?
Yeah.
Where's the...
So...
Has he got 5 of these now?
So then in the summer of 2007...
Yeah.
We decided to take a road trip down to Comic-Con.
Happy birthday, Mom. I want to die. I do. I really do. I feel like fucking garbage. This is the worst I've ever felt in my entire life.
I'm glad you've finally gotten to experience a proper hangover.
And the excuse was that we had entered a video.
Hi! Oh, hi-ho! I like ships.
Have you ever been in this situation? You probably felt pretty silly. You need to know how to talk like a pirate.
That was accepted, and it was our Talk Like a Pirate video, which was another of our big early
That's true.
viral moments.
That's one of those, that's sort of an evergreen one that keeps every year.
Earlier on the internet, it was a lot bigger, but September 13th, I think it is Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Right.
And this was hilarious memes for that era of the internet.
You may be wondering why R deserves its own section, but this simple sound is an integral part of pirate speech.
Now, these days, people don't need a specific day to talk like a pirate.
No, you could just talk. You know what? Now this society is so much more accepting. You can talk like a pirate any day you want.
Ahoy, Jim lad! 'Tis a fine day to sail the seas. How be ye?
We won, but yeah, we did a video like an old sort of instructional thing of like how to talk like a pirate. I should have worn the Thromborax shirt today too.
Yeah, and that's actually one of those videos where. We're doing the thing right now where we're talking about like remaking videos and stuff. And How to Talk Like a Pirate is one of those videos where, because like the style is supposed to be a old-fashioned educational video, like to me it's basically exactly how it should be.
The personal pronoun is either I or me as a possessive, as in me grog, me booty, and me timbers. Section 4. R.
I don't know if there would be any benefit to remaking that. It's
no.
Like, and we link to it every year probably.
Yep.
And it's as true then as it is today.
Yep. I love the language of pirate is spoken here in the Thromborax.
Yeah, and that was a T-shirt that was not that
That one was fine. That one sold okay.
Yeah.
Not as badly as the Wii one did. But anyway, that was accepted into the Comic-Con International Film Festival. It did not win anything or any sort of special recognition, but it was accepted. And
we get the laurel wreath with like official selection.
Yeah. And it meant that we got to go to the sort of the filmmakers like day after panel thing, which was just for filmmakers who had won that, with some of the judging panel, on whom was Thomas Jane.
Yeah.
And it was the funniest thing, because I love this. I've told this story so many times, but he's there in sunglasses because he went hard the night before.
Was super hungover.
Super hungover. And I just love how brutally honest he was being, because he was like, you know, the other two judges were like talking about the selection process and, you know, how they decided
it's so
to
difficult, so
pick
many
stuff.
good videos.
Yeah. And it goes to Thomas Jane, who's sitting there like this, and he's just like, I had to watch so many videos and so many of them are bad. Here, your video is too long. If you think you've cut it down as short as you possibly can, cut it in half. And it was it's honestly very good advice. Like I was enamored by him just being like, I'm so hungover and I don't care about this and I'm just going to be brutally honest.
And yeah, and so like I think we talked to we like sort of said hi after, sort of, hey, and it was like, oh, we did this video. And it was like, oh yeah, that one was pretty short.
Yes. It was short.
So so in order to go down to the Comic-Con, we bought so we were all, I think the oldest of the Loading Ready Run crew at that point was like maybe 21, 22.
I can't remember, but the deal was you couldn't rent a car in the US unless you were 25.
Yeah. Or yeah, maybe it was a little than that.
And so
23, 24. Anyway, so we bought a short bus.
We bought a bus.
Yeah.
If I could change anything about this trip, I'd fly.
Yeah. It was like, I don't know, a couple thousand bucks.
It was like a little under $5,000 amortized across all the people.
It was basically the same price as renting a car for that long would have been.
Yeah, but it meant that we got to just keep all our crap in it. We put decals on it, and yeah.
Yeah, and we put like a Loading Ready Run thing on the side. And we drove it down, and there's all sorts of silliness and bad things happened along the way. And we kept that, you know, we went all the way down to San Diego.
Yep.
Then we went up to Las Vegas and went through a bunch of other places in a bus with no air conditioning, by the way, in the summer.
Also, Matt and Ben were the only ones, Ben Wilkinson.
Right.
Neither of the present Bens that you know, Matt Wiggins and Ben Wilkinson, were the only ones who were allowed to drive it, again, because of like age restrictions.
Right.
And it was one of the like Chevy van bus mods where the engine sort of like backs partly into a bulkhead right beside the driver. So they were just cooking.
Yeah.
They're at a certain point, we were like taking like those blue shop towel paper towels, dunking it in ice water and handing it up so that the driver could like stick it to the side of their leg facing the thing so that their leg wasn't like burning alive as we drove through California in July.
So
it was great. It was a fun trip.
One of those trips that you want to take when you're
that age
when
and
you're
no
that
other
age.
time. Yeah. But yeah, it was because it was you and me and James and Morgan and Bill and Adam and Alex and Matt and Ben and not Jeremy though, right?
No, that's when Jeremy had to do the
he was doing his terrible job as a tour guide.
Yeah, the tour guide with the Dutch.
Yeah. And not Kathleen also, because she had like a normal office job and couldn't take 2 weeks off just to mess around. She flew down for Comic-Con
and met us at Comic-Con like a very reasonable person would do.
Yeah, exactly. What a cool idea.
And so what
among the things we did at Comic-Con was that we had early thoughts for this thing that we wanted to do, where James had been thinking that we should do something for Child's Play. We should. It had been started a couple of years. Actually, they're having their 20th year next year,
Yeah, so
the
it
Child's Play
started.
charity.
It started in 2004, I guess.
And James was like, Penny Arcade started this children's charity. They do video game comedy on the internet. We do video game comedy on the internet. We should do something to like support Child's Play. And Paul had found Frank Cifaldi's upload on Waxy of the Desert Bus ROM and was like, we should do something funny with these, like another episode of the Sleep Dep experiment, which was a video that fell completely apart. Don't worry about that.
So anyway, it's the next morning, and still none of us have slept. Though we've decided to drop the goofy characters, being as we just don't really care.
Yeah, it was a good idea, and then we realized we're really tired.
And then we were like, oh, what if we combine these ideas? But we should check if they're okay with that. So we go to the Penny Arcade booth at Comic-Con, and we talk primarily to Jerry. I think Mike was around, but primarily to Jerry, and we're like, hey, we want to do this thing. We have this idea for a fundraiser where we're going to, we explain sort of what the idea that we had for Desert Bus at that point. And they were just sort of like,
okay,
knock yourselves out, I guess. Like, I don't, sure. Like, they definitely did not understand what we were explaining, and I don't think that's their fault.
And I'm sure lots of people come to them with like big grandiose ideas.
Oh yeah.
In October of 2007 is when we did the first Desert Bus.
We did the first Desert Bus. And now a reminder for this sort of podcast is that like we're not going to spend a little bit of every episode talking about Desert Bus. So we'll talk about Desert Bus very quickly now, because again, this is not the Desert Bus podcast. But yeah, we did this thing. We did it from our living room. It was where myself, Bill, and Morgan lived. And it did mean that some of us at least got to just immediately go to sleep when we were off shift. And this is when we were doing the 4-hour shifts, which was bad because it was like you do 4 hours, but then I'd get like 16 hours off, but then I'd have to go again on this like weird time cycle.
Yeah.
And, much has been made about how this was, we were broadcasting the feed off of a MacBook, in a camera with a wide angle lens that was literally attached with rubber bands because it wasn't supposed to fit that camera. And we were like, I don't know, how much money do we think we're going to raise? Like $2,000 maybe? And I was like, no, let's shoot for the stars. Let's say 5. Let's put a big number up there so that people like go for it or whatever. We didn't even have a chat room. Like we didn't even have like access to the chat room initially. We were like, oh, there's people talking. We need to get in there. We need to, we need to be communicating with these people.
There was, we were broadcasting on Ustream. And Ustream had, when you broadcast on Ustream, there's a checkbox that is like also chat.
Yeah.
Activate a chat. And I was like, sure, I guess.
Sure, why not?
And that turned out to be, the most important thing about Desert Bus.
Yep.
We sort of did the thing, and we had planned with I worked out a thing for the donation level sort of compounding and increasing with the idea that we would be doing, that we're sort of maxing out at $5,000. If we did 5,000, it would be like the weekend.
Yeah.
It would be like
what we all assumed would happen.
And so I was like, that's a good amount of time. It's not like, if it's too short, then it's like not that impressive. So it seemed like a reasonable amount of time. Obviously we went
22,805.
People had like work that they had to just like go to, having not slept at all.
We wrapped up again, like Kathleen had that normal office job again. So she was only in for the weekend. She had to go back and then flew back in, took the Harbor Air flight to get back in at like, we wrapped up at 7 a.m. on the Wednesday morning.
Right. And then we were just like, okay, cool, bye, click.
Yep, good night. And then we had the money. There was no...
right, it was just being sent to like our PayPal account.
Yeah, there was no way to track donations or anything like that. So we had a spreadsheet and we were like contacting Child's Play being like, how do we give you this money? Penn and Teller phoned in because like someone, maybe it was us, had posted on their fan forums and it had gotten to the mods and then back to Penn and Teller. And then they had done like internet lookup and found Paul's name on some website somewhere and phoned his mom.
Yeah.
And didn't tell us.
I think Penn's wife called my mom and got my phone number.
So they phoned us after we started and they gave us $500, and then Teller kept calling back every day to like order us food. And what do you want? We're like, I don't know, Subway. So we ordered like a party platter from Subway. And he said, the people at the Subway are very weird taking a credit card over the phone from Las Vegas from a person with only one name. And he's like, I promise you my credit card just says Teller. And then we were on the news.
This is my 32nd hour of staring at this TV with this road ahead of me, and it's just mind-numbingly boring.
On Friday at 6 p.m., Desert Bus for Hope began.
Your plan to release all future video games with French
The people behind the event produce a weekly online sketch comedy at LoadingReadyRun.com. Their chosen charity is Child's Play. It supplies toys, books, and video games to hospitals for sick children.
We were trying to film a sketch in the next room. We had to be like, hey, Desert Bus, could you shut up for like 5 minutes so we can film this sketch?
Right.
All right, we're just going to do that one once more. So, quiet on set. Yes, it's heavily stylized, but I'm telling you, it's based on a historical event.
I'm not really seeing one can as 300. I'm having trouble.
You have no imagination. Wait here.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, okay, you guys can talk for a few minutes while we set up all these cans.
You guys actually have 300 cans?
No,
we have a few.
Now the second.
And the ball was pitched on the leg side of the wicket, then the batsman is out. But if the ball hit the batsman on the
that was so good, Graham.
Throughout most of Desert Bus history,
yeah,
we didn't actually stop our like uploading schedule during Desert Bus. In fact, we would usually do like a Desert Bus video.
Yeah,
which was almost always ill-advised from a filming standpoint.
Yeah.
Like we either filmed it like in the run-up to Desert Bus or like right after Desert Bus in various ways that were, everyone was always sort of sleep deprived or harried trying to get this thing figured out.
So bad. But yeah, it turned into a whole thing. We met people there. Like when we met Tim for the first time, he was just like, hey, I live nearby. Can I come by?
Can I bring you a cake?
And we're like, sure, come on by. We were just like,
people were just like bringing us food and
people we'd
stuff.
never met before just came in and started hanging out,
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And I mean, like I said, no, we're not going to talk. Desert Bus obviously kept going. We're now at the point where in a lot of ways, Desert Bus to Loading Ready Run in a lot of ways is like Child's Play to Penny Arcade, right? They started Child's Play, but Child's Play is largely a separate entity from, in their case, it is a completely separate entity from Penny Arcade now. Desert Bus obviously still involves a lot of people from Loading Ready Run, but involves a lot of people who aren't involved in Loading Ready Run now. And it is very much its own entity.
Which is great.
And that's really cool. Yeah, that it sort of has this whole sort of life of its own that could and probably will continue if Loading Ready Run wasn't involved.
Yeah, it's a wild thing. So yeah, just in these 2 years, right? We had like the Fringe show, the Comic-Con road trip, the big sort of viral hits of 3PS3s and Talk Like a Pirate, and then the first Desert Bus. This was a whirlwind.
And this is all not full time either.
Yeah, still not full time. This is still just like out of pocket. No one's making money off it. No one's making any kind of money. Well, we did put Talk Like a Pirate on Rever.
Right.
Which maybe we'll have to get into a little later, but it was the first thing, the first video hosting website that actually shared ad revenue, hence the name, with the people that make the videos.
For a while anyway.
Yeah, well, they're not around anymore. But for now, though, we are going to have a little sit-down chat with Jeremy and Matt while we talk about their time in Loading Ready Run as well and what they recall. So let's say hi to them. And now we are here for this portion of the podcast with myself and Paul again, but now joined by Jeremy Petter.
Hello.
And Matt Wiggins.
And I'm a PC. I wish we'd spoken about that earlier.
It would have been a great bit. This is great. I'm really excited for this because obviously you both have been around essentially since the beginning and continue to occasionally pop in for stuff. Like in the last couple of years, you've done some stuff on Dice Friends, Matt. You're still hypothetically involved in a podcast that presumably will continue to
at least
record
one.
episodes someday.
Yeah, at least one podcast that will probably produce at least one more episode at some point or another.
Probably involved in a presumed podcast.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on when James feels like recording new episodes of it, I think. So this is great. Well, welcome back, and welcome to the new. This is the first thing we've recorded on this set, actually. Spoilers for those at home that we're doing this slightly out of order, but this is the first thing in our new live set on in Moonbase Mark 6.
Things have changed.
They have.
They've changed a little bit in the last 1 or 2 or 12 years.
Yep.
So should we talk about how the two of you kind of got involved? I mean, I guess there's we talked about how the initial years of Loading Ready Run was largely just like, hey, could you be in this? Because we're hanging out anyway.
I have kind of a take on this. I guess if we go far enough back, right?
Yeah.
It starts in high school, right? Which is where most of us met.
I would love for you to relay the origin story of how you and I started hanging out.
So, do you remember how you and I met?
Yeah.
Okay. I was in a summer theater production of Twelfth Night playing Malvolio. He's the butler who gets fooled into wearing yellow stockings, cross-gartered.
Yeah.
And during, I think it was like we did like 2 different plays, and during the intermission between the two, our mutual friend Alan Ramsey was involved in the other play, and so I went out with Alan, and Graham was there viewing the shows, and so the 3 of us started hanging out, and Alan quickly identified Graham to me as this guy he knew who basically knew everything about Star Trek. And I considered myself a Star Trek aficionado.
So there's like a little bit of like alpha posturing going on here.
I was like more of a mind, I think, at the time to just test and test his claims.
It's hard to consider yourself in the alpha posturing position wearing yellow cross-garter stockings.
That's true. Or whatever. I think you were probably wearing that Star Trek Voyager
Probably,
shirt.
yeah. I mean, neither of us had a high ground. The costume designer did a great job on that play. But yeah, because we were not in the same grade. You were a grade ahead of me.
Yeah.
But then it meant that like every time we would pass, we were at the same high school. So every time we would pass each other in the hallway, like we didn't hang out, but if we passed each other, you'd be like, "Hey," and you just like hurl a piece of Star Trek trivia at me.
Yep.
Just like this was, I didn't know, meaning no offense, I didn't know this guy, right? But just we'd pass each other in the hallway, and he'd be like, "Hey, here's answer this question," and I would, and then that was sort of our relationship for like a year there, or like half a year or whatever,
something like that. I mean, eventually we stared. We did find that we had some mutual friends.
Yeah.
We started hanging out together a little bit more.
Especially when I joined the drama class.
Mm-hmm.
I guess actually I'm conflating time. I'm extending time periods here because that would have been halfway through my first year at the school because I was in band, and it turns out when you're in band, they like it if you practice, and I was bad at it because I was not in love with the instrument that I had been assigned in grade 5. Right? I did not like to play the trombone.
I think a lot of us have that experience where, at some point in 5th grade or 6th grade, we're like, I will play an X. And for me, I was like, well, I've done the recorder a little bit before in music class, so maybe I will do the clarinet because it is kind of the same thing. And the people who are in band, they get to like perform in front of the school and they get out of class a lot. So those all seem like good things.
Yeah.
And then you're in like 10th grade and 11th grade and you're like, I'm playing the clarinet, but I'm really not sure this instrument speaks to my soul anymore.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, look, you're halfway normally grade 8s either do band or they do this like fine arts rotation where you go through all the different things that the school offers so you know what you want to take in grade 9. We're already halfway through that. You've missed it. So I don't know, like there's because the way that it was like the drama classes went like half the year or whatever. So they were like, well, this one's starting up, in a couple weeks. You want to just join this grade 9 drama class, and I went, yeah, it sounds great. I'll do acting. Would love to perform. And Jared was in that class.
Actually, I think that's where you ended up meeting Morgan. Is that right, or was that later?
I think you were in that class. It could have been Morgan.
You and I were definitely in the same drama class, but it might have been the next year.
Maybe, I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, we definitely hung out there. I know that you made a connection with Morgan separately, and
that's where I started to begin being drawn into the swirling maelstrom of Bill's house.
Yeah, well, yeah, I met James in band class separately.
Right.
Alan, James, and I, who's another mutual friend, hung out at the back porch, which was a
teen center.
The teen center where all the cool teens went. The cool thing about it being that it had Sega Channel.
Yeah.
So if you went there at lunch,
Oh my God.
yeah,
I forgot about Sega Channel.
yeah,
Wow.
you could download Mega Man: The Wily Wars. It was the only way that you could play it in North America.
Is that game just lost to time now?
No, it's been re-released. I think like Limited Run Games did it on a cartridge.
That
here.
sounds like something they would do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's kind of how our group of friends started coming together. Matt moved here a little bit later, though.
Yeah,
right?
I joined Victoria in 11th grade, start of 11th grade.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
God, it feels like you were there for so much longer than
I
that.
know.
What is
I'm
time?
just that unbearable.
No, it's just like what just the concept of time in high school felt like it took forever.
Yeah.
But it was only 5 years.
Yeah, I only did grade 11 and 12 in Victoria. And so that would have been 99 through 2001, the way the school years work.
And I think Matt and maybe Bill and I were all in the same chemistry class, maybe?
Yeah, and Alan. Because Alan was the first person that I sort of formed a rapport with upon moving to Victoria. Because we sat together in that chemistry class
with Mr. Carmichael. I remember Siobhan, another person from high school, was in the same class. And I remember the four of us playing a made-up RPG system, like prison RPG system that I made in chemistry class.
All RPG systems are made up.
That's true. Running entirely on coin flips.
Yeah. I think we became friends pretty quickly in that class because I have distinct memories of you playing Pokemon TCG on Game Boy Color, nonstop.
Not just Pokemon TCG on Game Boy Color, the Japanese copy.
Yes, because it was pre-release.
It wasn't out here yet, and not only was it not out here yet, the card sets Jungle and Fossil, which were in it, were not out here. And so I was making decks in that, and then I went to a card store one day for the Pokemon equivalent of F&M, Saturday morning Pokemon League, and was like, okay, I want to get together all the cards to build this deck, and most of them did not exist.
Oh no! It wasn't 1-to-1 with the actual TCG.
It was, but the card because it was a Japanese import.
They hadn't been released
the
yet.
sets hadn't been released yet.
Oh my God! We had problem. Jared and I once got in an extended argument, and I'm talking not like extended as in it went on for hours. I mean extended as in it was an ongoing disagreement that we had over the course of months, maybe even years, as to whether the second game in the Metal Gear Solid franchise,
the Metal Gear
franchise was Metal Gear 2 or Metal Gear: Snake's Revenge, because it turns out both of those games exist.
I remember just feeling the injustice of you coming in, PlayStation player who had previously had a Commodore 64, and being gaslighting me about what the second Metal Gear game was.
This was before Wikipedia to give you the definitive answer.
Right. And I was like, I played Snake's Revenge extensively on the NES.
And the Nintendo Direct that happened recently, when they were talking about the collection or whatever, and they're like, also it includes Metal Gear 2, and Metal Gear Snake's Revenge, and I was just like, they do exist.
So which one was the second one?
Well, I can't. I think it was for different platforms.
No,
one was North America. One was, I can't remember.
We're reigniting the battle now.
You're correct on both their points. Both those points.
Okay.
So, Metal Gear. The story, if you care, the story was that
spoilers.
Kojima was not going to make another Metal Gear game, ostensibly.
The story of his life.
And
so he made 10 more.
In Konami US, Ultra Games made a sequel. They got an American team, I think it was an American team, to make a sequel, which was more action focused and side scrolly and whatnot.
Was that Snake's Revenge?
Snake's Revenge, and it came out. And there's this apocryphal story of Kojima's on a train, and someone from the team is on the train with him, some Konami retreat or something. I don't know. And showed him the game. Was like, hey, here's this sequel to Metal Gear that we've made. And Kojima was like, oh, I got to make Metal Gear 2 now.
Now I have to do it properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it turns out they both existed, but we didn't have the internet to tell us. I mean, internet was around, but they didn't. We didn't have like ready access to the sum total knowledge.
Trying to download the answer over 14.4 would have taken longer than the argument lasted. Yeah.
And like this is like I'm skipping ahead significantly here, but this is to me a really quintessential part of early Loading Ready Run. When you talk about sort of the vortex of Bill's house, like during the first couple years of Loading Ready Run, there were no smartphones.
Nope.
There was no Discord. Slack did not exist.
Mm-hmm.
We were very early adopters and like longtime users of Google Wave.
Yep.
For like this is years and years later.
But long time is relative.
About as long
Nobody is a long time
about as
user.
long as possible.
Yeah. I think it was long time was about.
I want to say that we were like early adopters. Like we were in the beta and we were some of the last holdouts.
Yeah.
It was like, us and people at Google probably, but that really defined what I remember being the experience of early Loading Ready Run videos was we would, it was kind of whoever was around, and it wasn't like, oh, hey, come over, make a video. It was more likely just whoever happened to be around that day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like just, I don't know, kids probably still do it now. Just a lot of hanging out without any particular purpose, playing video games or whatever.
I still remember when we were shooting, because this period of time, the 2 years that Paul and I were talking about earlier in this episode, was when we did the first series of Rapid Fire.
And with that, this is Steve Clark for Action 9 News. Bye you, Brian.
Which was, of course, inspired by the British, very quickly paced sketch comedy show, The Fast Show, and then sort of developed into, I would say that like Crap Shots has a lot of sort of roots there of just like quick stuff with recurring characters and things like that. But I distinctly remember filming the second series of Rapid Fire. Nate Mosher, who played a couple side characters in that series.
So, did you fall from heaven? Because I believe in the afterlife.
Had I think it was a BlackBerry or something. He had something with internet on it. And I remember because we were at the first moon base and we didn't have internet and we were trying to look something up
I think it was just,
write.
It was literally just like a flip phone.
Yeah.
But it had like the, he could access.
He could do like Wikipedia.
Wikipedia, like little like text based.
Because we were trying to write a like Officer Rodriguez Detective Riley sketch. And we needed to find out like things that happened in a certain year so that we could do. And he was like looking it up on his phone, and we were just like, "Oh man, this is so cool!" And then eventually we'd all be up at like 5 a.m. waiting for iPhones when they came out. They didn't come out in Canada right away. We got the second revision.
G.
Yeah, the iPhone 3G, but that was later.
We've got the first sketch that we have. What is the?
Yeah, right. So James went through. This is fun. James went through and wrote down, as near as we can figure, which is based on the wiki. So we believe the wiki to be accurate of what everyone's first sketches were. So do you recall, each of you, what the first sketch video that you were in that we aired was?
I think it's got to be in like almost indisputably the 2003 Halloween special.
2003 Halloween is going to be my guess too. Pumpkinheads.
That is correct for both of you. Yes.
Yeah.
That was one of the earliest videos that we did, which was seriously just
wandering around with pumpkins
in our heads. Yeah. We used like the Kill Bill music. Well, not the music that they used in Kill Bill. It was from something else originally. It's called Battle for Honor and Humanity.
Yeah, I think that's
is the name of that track. We were just like, let's make pumpkin helmets and.
End of idea.
Yep.
Well, I mean, we're definitely recreating the way that you pitched it to me at the time was basically doing a bunch of.
I'm glad you remember.
Well, I remember weird things. They take up my brain space,
Same.
and then I can't remember very important things.
Same.
Now, especially as I get older.
Same.
But yeah, you pitched it to me as basically doing Bruckheimer walks, all over the city, and which is what it was.
Yep.
It was Bruckheimer walks. To Paul's point, though, we had no exit strategy.
I think my favorite bit in that was everybody just standing around looking very sad at a pumpkin pie.
At the Safeway. Oh man,
our fallen brother.
Yeah. I don't have the problem of having weird Loading Ready Run trivia taking up space in my brain because I'm pretty sure that video marked the start of things being thrown at my head. Because I'm pretty sure there's a scene in that video or on the cutting room floor that is like a piece of pumpkin being winged at my head, still in the pumpkin helmet, which would become a recurring thing.
I think
later on.
I think it's an outtake, and I think that was Bill.
It was Bill or Morgan,
It's
I
likely.
think.
I can't believe that. Sorry, because Matt's of course referring also to the bit in the Loading Ready Rumble, the first Loading Ready Rumble where Matt, as the PC with the Viking helmet on, gets a pot lid thrown at his head.
You killed the PC with a pot lid.
I prefer Apple anyway. Hey, do you know that they don't get viruses? That's what I hear.
That was a Battle Royale reference.
Yes.
The pot lid.
I think so.
Yeah. It was just like I'll just do it gently. And I mean, in my defense, I did. In Matt's defense, you can only throw a pot lid so gently. It's still just a piece of flying metal.
Yeah. The Viking helmet did nothing.
No, it made a great noise though.
Yeah, it made such a funny noise.
I think that's like altogether like it really well encapsulates like kind of what season 1 and especially those first few months of season 1 were like, where it was just like, yeah, we're kind of hanging out, we have this idea, let's just go shoot it. And it's amazing as a much older person to be like, oh yeah, sure, why not just go shoot it. And it was really an extension. So have you already gone through like the film festivals and then you getting the camera,
Racism, stop it.
and all that kind of stuff that led up to
we talked
Run?
about some of that stuff in the sort of
the Origins episode. Episode 1 was just Paul and I talking about sort of what led up to Loading Ready Run.
Yeah. So I definitely remember like pre-Loading Ready Run. There was a period after you got the camera, but before you started Loading Ready Run, where as well you would just have Graham would just carry this camera around with him. More or less everywhere. It wasn't like security blanket level, but it was like he just enjoyed using it and filming his friends doing dumb stuff.
And me, with the camera.
And a bag.
And a bag. Oh.
Hello, Satan. What's your beverage of choice?
Satan endorses Pepsi, and it is shown to make zombies out of most highly intelligent individuals.
And then when a camera's there, it also encourages people to do dumb stuff.
Which is amazing we didn't get ourselves in more trouble.
The circle of dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And so, so I remember like a few days, I distinctly remember the expedition with like the Christmas tree where we had like an old Christmas tree that we were trying to get rid of or something. So like we went and walked around with it and we ended up like finding a couch by the side of the road and picking that up and carrying it around. I think you called it the Grand Adventure. And you filmed it all and you edited it. This was like one of the first live things that I can remember you editing in like continuity editing.
Yeah. Holy crap. I'd forgotten about that completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause it was the big, actually James used this couch in his home for many years. Was a couch that we just found and matching armchair. Was that when you were living with Bill in that house on that road in Oak Bay?
Another important thing for me is that I lived with Bill 2 times, once on Redfern and then once on Elford. And that meant that I was around more frequently when people were hanging out at Bill's house for a while.
Yeah. You know, like I mentioned sort of the Nexus at Bill's place. I'm sure that, again, because we're recording this out of order, I'm sure that we will have spoken with James about this a bit in the last episode. But, you know, like in high school, it basically every weekend was just like, you know, Friday at 3:00, the school day ends, and we just walk to Bill's and stay there all weekend.
Bill's house was not like super close to our high school either.
Or anyone else's house.
It was quite a long way away.
It was a super big walk.
But he had this big basement, and his mother and whoever else was in the house, because there were a few other people, gave us more or less free reign of the basement. And as a teenager, there's not a lot more that you can ask for.
Yeah. And so then that sort of codified in our heads. It's like, oh, I'm going to go hang out somewhere. Well, I guess I'll go to Bill's place.
Well, and it got more like, because then they moved close to our high school. And then Bill's mom moved out, but kept the house and rented it to me, Bill, and Morgan. And so after that, you were still in high school. Some of our other friends were still in high school, but it became like way more the de facto hangout for not just like us, but like our extended friend group as well.
Yeah. Well, it's also like, because you guys were all a grade ahead of me, so you'd graduated. I was still at high school, but I had my schedule worked out that I had a bunch of spares, right? And so if it was like a spare and then lunch and then a spare, there's just a 3-hour block of time. So, and you lived so close to the school, I was like, well, I'll just go over Bill's for 3 hours. To the point, there was so many people coming and going that the neighbors complained to the police because they thought it was a crack house.
Yes. I remember Bill's mom. I remember waking up one morning and like lying in bed and being like, I'm not going to move. As Bill's mom and Bill had a heated discussion where she was like, yes, the police watch this house. You see that car out there? That police car? It's not just hanging out. It is watching this house.
This is not relevant to most people, but just please, listener, viewer, know that the notion of a crack house, in heavy air quotes, in this neighborhood is comically laughable. Like the how much of a NIMBY you have to be to assume that there is a crack house in this particular neighborhood is ridiculous that they would have. And the Oak Bay police have nothing better to do with their lives.
Well, exactly. I was going to say, at least you gave an Oak Bay policeman a job for a while.
Breaking up lightsaber fights on.
In this episode of the podcast, we've been talking about the 2006-2007 year. So that was
season
3, 4.
Season 3, season 4, yeah.
Season 3, season 4. We're talking about the road trip, the Comic-Con road trip, which obviously Jer was not able to attend because you had a job as like a tour guide at the time.
That was that summer. That was
the
same time?
It was, yeah, that's why I couldn't go on the road trip. Is I had the summer job that I really needed. I was not actually a tour guide. I was a secretary for a touring company, but they ran out of guides, and so I had been putting together the handbooks for the guides to tell them like, this is where you go, this is what you do, these are the activities that are available there. And so they were like, well, you've been putting together these handbooks, so even though you've never been to any of these places, you want to go act as a guide for a bunch of Dutch tourists and their families. And because I was, I don't know, 20 years old, I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that.
It did not work out too well, as I recall.
Post-traumatic stress disorder was something I discovered.
Even though it was an episode of the Whatever Thing, which was an early series that I'm sure we'll talk about later in this podcast, that was where the words were first uttered. The notion of why we dislike the Dutch. The Dutch! Again! Which we don't really, if you're Dutch, hello. But ripping on the Dutch as a concept is because of this. Because Jared had such a bad summer.
Was literally traumatized. Like I could walk down the road and I would see the faces of the people in the tour group and the people that I was walking by on the road.
I'm sorry to bring it up.
That's okay. That's all right.
But
we almost died in California.
But
so.
yeah,
I was going to say,
as we talked about at the beginning part of this, Matt was one of the 2 people who actually could drive the bus because of licensing reasons.
I was one of the few people who could drive.
Yeah, could drive, but also there was like some requirement that
the right age.
It was like
you
and Ben Wilkinson could drive it, and so that was a whole thing.
I remember hearing stories about this, like going through the desert and them needing to like have like a bucket train to put.
Oh yeah,
to
keep. So we had this decrepit old like 1979 Chevy panel van school bus conversion into a 7-seater school bus. and the thing barely ran. We got it from a car dealership on the Up Island called Good Used Cars, and let me tell you, that was a lie.
Yep.
But it it served its purpose.
It functioned
for years. For many years.
Yeah.
We had them send it to like a air quote independent mechanic for a inspection, and I'm confident it never left the lot.
So, what seems to be the trouble?
Well, we're starting up the bus to take it to Murray's Automotive to get the power adapter installed, and it wouldn't turn over. We didn't leave anything on. We didn't leave the lights on or anything else, which is a little weird, because it just, battery, like we flicked on the interior lights and they went, whoa, little sketchy, so, yeah, so we're stuck.
Well, there was a garage on the lot, and I guarantee you they did the inspection. If they even did it,
I don't think they did. I think they were just like,
garage.
yeah, it looks fine.
Looks fine. The gas gauge didn't work, so we could never tell if we had gas in it.
Yeah, we kept for the first 2 days. We just kept running out of gas. We thought the van broke. We thought it was breaking down. Turns out it was just running out of gas, and because the gas gauge didn't work, and also the way the gas tank worked.
It was a very wide or whatever. This is how it was eventually explained to us when the very kind people who were super patient with us finally figured out what the problem was, which was that it was a very shallow and long gas tank. And so when you put the gas pump in it, it hit the clunk, it's full, way, way, way faster than possible. And so we literally just ran the bus out of gas because we were like, got to fill it up. Clunk. Oh, guess it's full. Right. And then we just had no fuel. And so
we're like, wow, we're getting really good fuel economy.
Yeah. Once we realized we had to just fill the crap out of it, but we had to replace the tires in the middle of the thing. We were in Baker, Nevada, and I remember it because that's where they have the giant tall ass thermometer that read 113 degrees Fahrenheit. Yep. And we were stopped at the gas station and someone was like, hey, is it bad that we can see metal on these tires? No part of this bus was inspected. But man, that thing ran.
It did.
Yeah.
I remember on the tire lacerating my thumb on one of the little metal little threads that had frayed out of the tire. And oh man, the horror stories of getting replacement tires when they went bald and picking through
and a replacement gas cap because someone left the gas cap sitting on top of the pump at a gas station.
Oh no!
I mean, I think it was you because it was probably
it would have been either me or Ben, probably.
But it was gas cap off, set on because it wasn't attached, set on top of the pump it up, hang the thing back up, leave. Next gas station. Where's our gas cap? It had been open the whole time on the highway. That's so dangerous. So what did we replace it with?
We did find a gas cap.
Eventually, but until then, we replaced it with a wad of duct tape.
Yeah. And we taped it. We taped it on. It was fine.
It would be fine.
So we should not have survived that trip. We truly should not have survived that trip.
You went down there ostensibly to show something in a film festival.
How to talk like a pirate.
Oh.
With this information in mind, you too can hold your own in pirate.
Ahoy, mateys! I was about ready to keel haul PowerPoint today. The scurvy bills rats that designed that program, they deserve to be set afloat with the worst of Davy Jones's detritus.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow, how could I have missed that?
One of our earliest viral hits was it was accepted into the Comic-Con International Film Festival. And we screened How to Talk Like a Pirate at Comic-Con.
That's interesting. I'm thinking about that now and what the sort of era that would have happened in, because How to Talk Like a Pirate was one of the first videos that we co-wrote as a panel. It was shortly after Bill and Morgan moved into that house on Fairfield.
Yep.
And that became sort of the base of operations for lure stuff. And it was around the time...
Especially when Graham moved in there as well.
Yes. Yeah. And then Graham moved in. Right. I guess it would have been Graham moving in there that really moved it into that zone. I guess that would have had to be after Loading Ready Live. Loading Ready Live was when we started having regular meetings.
Yeah.
Right.
Because Loading Ready Live, we had to rehearse to be able to do things.
So, we talked about Loading Ready Live. Was that something that Graham and I came to you as an idea to do, or was it sort of like a group decision? I can't even remember.
I recall it as sort of like a group.
I think it was one of those things of like, hey, you know what we should do?
My recollection...
Turns out they just let anyone have a Fringe show.
Yeah.
My recollection is it was around the time we were starting to hang out with some real theater people. Like we were starting to attend... There was a comedy variety show that would happen fairly regularly called Philip's Comedy Night. And a few of us would go to that.
Hosted by Wes Borg.
And some of us were peripherally involved in improv. And so we would sometimes be involved in improv sections of that. And so that show had a bunch of improv, it had sketch, it had stand-up, and it brought in as well touring acts from other places. And so it gave us exposure to some of the live sketch stuff that was going on. At the time, the concept of internet sketch stuff was non-existent, but the live sketch people were kind of interested in what we were doing, and I think we were interested in what they were doing too. So when the Fringe sort of rolled around and we knew these people who were doing Fringe shows, that's I think how the idea kind of percolated.
Yeah.
That's something that has sort of been a recurring theme with Loading Ready Run stuff, is that we tend to kind of be disconnected from the larger community, I guess, in a lot of ways. Like, we're on YouTube, but we not really like YouTubers. We don't really have, and we're, we never really hooked up with like the theater community in Victoria or the, Canadian whatever comedy group of stuff, like, and that's not necessarily an intentional thing. That was just like we were off doing our own thing.
We're way out in Victoria, so like the CBC just doesn't know or care that we exist.
But I think we flirted with a lot of these things, right? So we were like, okay, is this a community that we can be a part of? I don't know, maybe, and didn't really land there. YouTube was also a thing at this point, because this was the period where we would release a video and it would get, some number of views. It would get 3,000 views or whatever. And then some unknown person would upload it to YouTube and it would get 10,000 views. And we would be like, what is going on with this YouTube thing?
We didn't start uploading to YouTube right away because, for one thing, we can't predict the future. We have no idea, knowing that, YouTube was going to turn into the thing that it is now. But also at the time, and I've said this before and I continue to maintain it, their quality was bad. Like, it was ass. It looked awful. And we're like, our videos look better the way we do them now. Why would we do this?
We had also spent like a lot of time upgrading our equipment and quality, because when we started in year one, I remember in my mind, when people are like, what was the instigating factor for Loading Ready Run? I'm like, well, it's a bunch of these different things, but also the invention of the MP4 video format.
That was a big one.
I remember having a conversation with both of you where you're like, so this MP4 thing, we can like upload a video at a reasonable size.
Yeah.
And it's so much smaller.
It was always important. I remember there were, different ways to embed a video onto the site, and with like Flash and different things and stuff. My thing was always like, I want my parents to be able to watch, and my parents wanted to watch the videos. And if it was too complicated to, if you needed to install a plugin to make it work, they couldn't watch it. So it's like, what's the simplest way to make this work that will just be embedded in? So little QuickTime videos embedded into the website.
What we did have, which was not YouTube, because I remember Talk Like a Pirate was one of the videos on this briefly lived service that casts a long shadow, which was Revver.
Right.
REVVER, because they were the first, because YouTube.
That was, pre-YouTube,
Well, YouTube was around, and so was Vimeo.
I think Revver and YouTube were about the same time. They sort of started doing stuff about the same time.
But you couldn't make money from YouTube.
Right.
Revver's whole thing was, hey, there's websites like YouTube that people make videos and put on, and then YouTube sells ads on the website, and YouTube makes all the money, and the people that make the video don't make any money. And that sucks. And it does. And so Revver was like, the name comes from revenue, ad revenue, and their whole thing was, we will split the ad revenue with the people that make the videos. I think it was 50-50. Right. And it was like, oh, what a great concept. Yes, that is how this should work. So we started putting our stuff on Rever, and eventually Rever collapsed, and we had to panic and move all of our stuff to Blip TV, and then eventually Blip TV got bought and shut down, and then now we're just
Rever worked.
Now we're just fucking on YouTube.
Yeah. Rever worked for a while. We got some money out of them and stuff, but and then they I guess they burned through their VC capital or whatever.
That's probably exactly.
And and they just stopped paying people for a while, and they went kaput. But
yeah, I just remember the early days of running the site, the monetization troubles of trying to set up an AdSense account for the Loading Ready Run website.
That still
and
sucks.
Finally getting it set up, but having it bound to I think my personal email at the time, and then a well-meaning fan repeatedly clicking on the days after we finally got them implemented, a well-meaning fan clicking on the ads numerous times, which then came back to us as Google blacklisted my email address and our AdSense account. And
wow, I've forgotten about that. Yeah, we used to have banner ads on the website.
Yeah, that's right. And
I don't think we ever made any money off banner ads.
No. It ended up being a lot of stress for no real good use, but it ties into the Phillips Comedy Night, because I remember doing all this and getting blacklisted, and even then Google was an impenetrable wall. Yeah. You could not get a hold of anybody. But one of the Phillips Comedy Nights we went to, Graham had been talking to Ben Huh of I Can Has Cheeseburger.
Oh, right.
And we met him at the Phillips Comedy Night, and he was a big viral website at the time, right? And he was like, oh yeah, I know somebody at YouTube. I'll give them our contact. And so he put, I think, because I was dealing with this, he put me in touch with the specific AdSense support person that helped their website.
Wow, I forgot about that completely.
And they managed to I think they did finally unblacklist it. But at that point, we no longer cared about banner ad. It took so long that we had just given up. But I did get my my email unblacklisted, and then I think later we switched it over to a Loading Ready Run email.
I had completely forgotten about hanging out with Ben Huh from I Can Has Cheeseburger back when memes were just pictures of funny things with text on them.
Yeah,
I worked out that if we replaced the banner ads with ads for our merchandise, our store, DVDs and T-shirts, and through those ads sold one T-shirt, it would have offset all of the money we had made from AdSense.
I remember one story about merch that I remember is actually we were rehearsing for Loading Ready Live. So Loading Ready Live took place, the original Loading Ready Live was a Fringe show.
Yeah.
For context. And it mixed live acts and videos.
Right.
And I remember the review saying that the videos were good and the live stuff was of interesting quality.
James Turner, occasionally hilarious.
James is throwing up the horns in the booth right now. That was called him out by name. James Turner, occasionally hilarious. I mean, to be fair, it would go. The show. We didn't even talk about this earlier. Paul and I. The show got 3.5 out of 5 stars from Monday Magazine, which is the local sort of
rag
alt arts periodical, I suppose. And hey, 3.5 out of 5 stars from Monday Mag. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, we made enough money to take everyone to dinner afterwards, and we were all on speaking terms, and that's a successful Fringe show.
We covered all our costs as well.
We didn't sell as many T-shirts as we thought we would, but whatever. I still got
money. I appreciate that you're repping the show.
Oh, I'm wearing a different shirt every episode.
And our venue for the Fringe is now the Save on Food.
They tore it down. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the same building. They tore it down.
But they were like, we can never do anything here again. We must replace the building and destroy it.
Loading Reader has soiled this school to an extent that can't be resolved.
The venue was across the road from a McDonald's, and I remember going over with Matt to get cheeseburgers or something, and we had just got our personal merch in. So Graham, you had done a special order for us from the company that was doing our merch, and we had all got Loading Ready Run, black Loading Ready Run hoodies with logos on them. And I remember going into this McDonald's and ordering, and the person behind the counter was like, "Oh my gosh!" And she's like, calls her friend over, and she's like, "You know that website you like?" She's pointing at us. "These guys have shirts from it."
Right. These guys have shirts from it.
The roller coaster of like, oh, hey.
Did the person recognize you?
I don't think
I don't
she did.
remember. Oh, God. I remember when we were, brief aside, back to the Comic-Con road trip, I remember going through customs on the way down. Remember, there's a bunch of early 20s dudes in a bus, and of course they ask you questions when you enter the country, right? And they're like, "What are you doing? We're going on a road trip. Where are you going? San Diego? What are you doing there?" And we said we're going to Comic-Con, and I think that he thought we meant like comics, as in stand-up comics, as in comedians, right? So we were like, "We're going to Comic-Con," and the guy says, "Oh, bunch of comedians, huh?" And we're like, yes, because that's what we're like. Yeah, we sketched. That's
yes,
that's
but not,
what we do.
That's not why we're going.
We didn't
but yes.
put it together until after he was like, "All right, whatever, go ahead." Coming home, by the way, they tore that bus apart. Yeah, it's like, oh, you've been in this. A bunch of 20-something dudes have been in the States for 2 weeks in a short bus, and you're trying to get back into Canada. We're gonna search the hell out of you. And they took Alex's airsoft gun and never gave it back.
Big meanies.
Yeah.
That would have been at the Port Angeles. That would have been at the Port Angeles Ferry. Yeah,
that was down here. The Coho. It took so long for them to go through the whole. They looked through all of our stuff, which I mean, I get it, but it was just like, oh, we're so close to being home because we'd spent the night in the bus. That was the only night. Only one night we actually slept in the bus because we got to Port Angeles just too late for the Coho, and we were like. So we tried to find a hotel, and everyone was like, "No, F it. We're just going to sleep in the bus, and we'll get on the Coho first thing tomorrow morning." And boy, someone should have cracked a window because it was so foggy when we woke up in the morning.
So humid.
Everyone felt just miserable and gross. It was like, I can't wait to get home and have a shower and go back to bed.
So the other thing that happened in San Diego, though, was that you talked to Mike and Jerry from Penny Arcade.
Paul and I talked about that earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, go for it, I guess. Like, we pitched them on Desert Bus, and they were like, we have no idea what you're talking about. Go ahead. And then we did the Desert Bus from the living room.
Made in 1995, the video game was never released by Sega. It made its way onto the internet, and the video ride from Tucson, Arizona to Las Vegas takes place in real time, 8 hours at a maximum of 45 miles an hour.
Yeah, I guess what was your experience of the first Desert Bus?
Oh, so my experience of the first Desert Bus was, I don't really remember it because I wasn't that involved.
You were around a little bit.
I was around a little bit, but I just came by after work or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a thing that my friends are doing.
Let's go see what these fools are up to.
You actually had like a corporate job at the time. You're like, I have to actually work. We're like, okay, fine, I guess.
I mean, it was supposed to be a weekend, right? Like, it was originally just supposed to be the weekend. It wasn't supposed to bleed into the week at all. And it just ended up being more successful than the original plan, because the original plan was like, oh, we'll aim for the skies. We'll make $5,000. We'll never make that much money, but let's try for it anyhow. We'll set that as our goal.
It was supposed to be self-limiting, Paul. You promised.
I mean, it is just not quite as limiting as we were hoping.
We have finally found the place where it's self-limiting, and it's several orders of magnitude higher than $5,000.
It's about a week.
Yeah. So I remember hanging around that weekend, and then having to go back to work, and so I'd drop by in the evenings or afternoons or whatever. But otherwise I don't recall being around for a whole bunch of it. Trying to think of really salient memories, and I think the one that stands out in my mind is discovering my love of eggnog.
Oh, wait!
Didn't
was
know
the first time you'd had eggnog?
That was the first year that I really discovered eggnog, and there was definitely a 2 liter involved.
At Desert Bus?
At Desert Bus.
What an amazing.
Is this one
milestone.
of these like graph of like Matt's fitness? And then it's like discovers eggnog.
Yes, 100%.
Man, I love eggnog. I can't believe you hadn't had eggnog before.
Well, I'd
then.
had it, but it was like, I don't like this. It's like a weird sort of sweet savory thing. Like when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, told myself, like you do, you have something, you have a bad experience with it. And it's like, oh, I don't like that. And then you never go back to it.
Right.
And then I did that year and was like, oh my God, I've been missing out. I have to make up time.
Must have not had the Island Farms eggnog the first time.
Yeah, that was the Island Farms
Very
eggnog,
local
yeah.
stuff as well.
So anyhow, that's like the most salient memory to me.
Was that like challenges for Desert Buzz didn't really exist at that point, but
Nope.
they kind of still happened. I
Yeah,
remember
it
like
might
there was
have been.
like socks on hands was kind of a thing. I think
Playing
that
upside down.
Play upside down.
Matt drinks a 2 liter of eggnog may have been like a challenge.
It's possible. But now I do it for fun.
Same. We can go back to Desert Buzz if you like, but another anecdote that I remember is also from this period of time specifically was another of our like medium viral early hits, which was the rejected We Play games. Which was linked very kindly from Joystick, Rip Joystick, back when
poor old Joystick.
back when your main sort of sources for video game journalism were Joystick and Kotaku, by Justin McElroy of Mabim Bam. Yes, that Justin McElroy. He used to be a game journalist.
The game I've been playing a lot this is embarrassing. This will be fun. Right here, Hottie Hookups.
Nice. That's what we're looking for.
There we go.
And yeah, linking to that, and I recall finding it very odd at the time, and I think that this was just sort of like how the U.S. deals with certain things. Is that there was the link from Joystick bore a warning for animated urination.
I think that video is probably still one of the ones that like holds up pretty well. Like it's got some fun CG animation.
I mean, you did some work on that video.
Oh Christ, yes!
And then
doing full animations for all that stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
And then of course we made the T-shirt that nobody bought.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
The T-shirt possibly ill-advised.
That was eventually used to like pack other merch, I think.
We
like as packing material.
We gave up, and we sent 2 or 3 boxes of rejected We Play shirts to Lord Hosk, who, to my understanding, has been dispensing them as necessary to those who from the community who desire them. I could be wrong, but if you. This was I mean, we'll probably be showing an image on screen at this point, but it was the clip from the rejected We Play games of the like Wii proctology exam, and so it's a happy looking doctor and a sad looking guy and a privacy screen or whatever, and he's about to stick his fingers up the other guy's butt, except they look like Nintendo Mii figures, and we were like. We'd said on the forums, we were talking about the forums, missed the forums, that it was like, hey, what about this idea for a shirt? And people went, haha, yes, that's hilarious. What a great idea for a shirt. And then we made it and realized that people saying, yeah, that's a great idea for a shirt, I would buy that, does not actually mean that anybody would buy it, because no one wants to wear a shirt with a Nintendo Wii proctology exam on it.
It's true.
We made so many of them.
That is a very important lesson. People going, ha ha, that's funny, is different than people being, I want to buy that and wear it on my body.
Yeah.
My first memory of Desert Bus, when you guys told me about it, was like, I thought it was a bad idea. And this is an ongoing pattern. If I think it's a bad idea, you should probably do it. Like
now.
It sounded like a bad idea.
Why did you think it was a bad idea?
Oh yeah, here we go.
Because I thought no one would watch it. I felt that there wasn't a strong enough hook for like someone who was into video games to grab onto. Because I was like, I remember pitching once you told me about this. I remember desperately trying to come up with counter ideas for like things we could do.
Something more like GDQ or like the Mario Marathon or something.
Right.
Like playing a game that actually people might like to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you're not even wrong, right? Like, this is a legitimate concern because I don't like Desert Bus doesn't grab people based on the strength of the game so much.
And to be fair to me, like streaming video games in the ensuing years has it turned out being quite a successful thing.
And we didn't actually talk about this in the part earlier in this episode when we were talking about Desert Bus, but a reminder is that it was is the first charity fundraising video game marathon.
Mm-hmm.
This was before. But like well before GDQ, it directly inspired the Mario Marathon and the Zelda Marathon and the Mass Effect Marathon. Like we were the first people to do something like this on the internet, and that's when you're doing something for the first time, you don't know how it's going to go. It is totally unpredictable, and I don't think it's unreasonable for you to be like, I don't know, is it going to work, you guys? Because part of what Paul initially thought before we had sort of codified the idea of doing it as a fundraising thing was he's like, well, we got this Desert Bus thing. Could we do something similar to the Sleep Dep experiment, which was a sketch that we'd done that like kind of fell apart.
What are you hoping to accomplish by this exercise? Can't fall asleep standing up.
From what we'd originally intended to do.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Michaels, and welcome to Insomnia House, a place where these 5 men will undergo unspeakable trials towards a fantastic prize.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it required the input of people who were trying to stay up for 48 hours.
Yeah, the people recording it were also sleep deprived. Yeah, it wasn't a great combination.
Like, we shot this whole intro, like, in character, kinda, with you doing, like, the Paul Kennedy...
I think it was Jeremy Michaels, but one of
Jeremy
those
Michaels,
smarmy guys.
Doing your Roger Lodge from Blind Date impression.
Mm-hmm.
And we shot this whole intro that was sort of like... as if it was a reality show, as if it was sort of in character, and then it just deteriorated over the course of it. It was legitimately just people, just like Bill and Morgan and Derek, I think, and myself trying to actually stay up. And then the last update, because Bill was the last one to fall asleep. And he actually, shout out to Bill, because I didn't think he had this in him at the time. Before he fell asleep, he recorded himself with the camera being like, okay, that's it, I'm going to bed now. So we actually had an ending.
Jointly decided to give up. I think we're calling it at 45. And I'm going to finally get some fucking sleep.
Because I did not think we were going to have an ending. So I was really pleased that he did that. But yeah, I remember that like Morgan and I playing GTA and had to start directing him with pointing because we kept messing up saying our lefts and rights. We were up so late. It was awful.
And I think part of the thing with that, with the initial idea and sort of the early idea behind Desert Bus, you probably were correct in the idea that it's like nobody's going to watch this, or like this doesn't seem like a great thing, and so there was always this idea that because it was that even if it wasn't successful as a charity marathon, it could be like Loading Ready Run content.
That's true.
It would be sort of like, it was a funny idea.
And we don't have to do a video for the week.
Separate from whether it was actually like a good idea for a charity. And so the nice thing about Loading Ready Run is that, we had that sort of outlet for like, it's a funny idea, and if it doesn't work as a charity thing, it's still a Loading Ready Run video. And it just, obviously happened to actually work out better than expected as a charity thing.
Now, to my thesis of things that I think are probably bad ideas are usually good ideas. I also said the same thing about Loading Ready Run itself in the beginning. When you were like, hey, Paul and I are going to start making videos and put them on the internet. I was like, why?
You're like, you were like, this internet video thing is never going to last.
Why?
And I remember watching the first X to Y fries.
Yep.
when you posted it on the website and like a light bulb going off and being like, oh, I get it.
No,
I thought that was going to go the other way.
Yeah.
I saw this online and was like, oh, this is a terrible idea.
Yeah, I was right the whole time.
They did eat the fries after all. And another one was people watching other people play Dungeons and Dragons on the internet. I was like, no one would ever. We talked about that idea so many times, and every time, as the big D&D guy at the time, I would like just outright reject it because I was like, no one wants to hear about your character. No one wants
that
to
one's egg on your
D&D.
face, isn't it?
And there is actually, I mean, there is an interesting aspect of that, of course, because like, playing, telling people about your character or things that happened in your D&D game is sort of like a quintessential, like, thing that, the thing that somebody would do is like doing and boring everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but of course, at the time, the idea that you would actually get a whole bunch of like
professional voice actors
together and do a bunch of
because we were doing Temple of the Lava Bears before Critical Role ever started, right?
That's true. A bunch of new people showed up in town.
New people go missing. So we're not actually losing any net people. It's fine.
Yeah. They all wore big cloaks, and a lot of the locals are sort of at a loss to describe them because most of them were cloaked most of the time. One of them had a weird mask.
Mm.
Did it look like a bear? Did not look like a bear. But that was based on the idea, and the reason that I sort of agreed to do that was that Penny Arcade had done a series of podcasts with like the Acquisition Incorporated podcasts, and I was like, oh.
I see My Old Mini, which to me implies there's going to be sort of a mirror universe type.
Possible. Oh, like that. But you have a goatee, so we know you're the evil Roman.
Yeah, if there's any hair on the face, watch out.
That's a good format. If you heavily edit it and you cut it up into chunks that are easily digestible, then I could see it actually working. And so Lava Bears was extremely heavily edited. But, as it turns out, that's not required either.
And I think it's also just like things that are successful now maybe wouldn't have been successful, right? Like people's tolerance for different types of media has changed over the years. For some reason, we seem to be in this weird, like, it either has to be a TikTok, like it has to be like 60 seconds, or 4 hours is fine.
like a 2.5 hour video essay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That beyond just these sort of 2 years, because at some point this episode of the podcast will have to end. I want to sort of go from there through, like, if you have any specific memories, good or bad, but just things that jump out over the course of the time beyond with Loading Ready Run, and then eventually we should get to what you're up to now, because you were like I can't keep doing this week to week, which is fair, especially because we weren't making very much money at that point. We're not making a huge amount of money now, honestly, personally. I mean, you both had a similar trajectory of being like, what if I went into tech? Which is smart from a fiscal perspective.
I mean, we can talk about that for a little bit if you want.
Sure.
Because I mean, I think that's something that we really didn't talk about at the time, but it is actually an interesting thing to go into. And I know you'll probably have future podcasts about this this time period. But so there was also through this period and after this this trajectory of like going professional, because at the beginning, no one was making any money. Like, we talk about merch and AdWords and things like that. The site was straight up not paying for itself. It was just something that we were doing for fun for the most part.
It was out of pocket. Paul and I had formed a limited partnership, which meant that any money that came in was considered personal income of Paul and myself and taxed accordingly.
But that didn't even happen until...
But that didn't even happen. That was later.
Limited partnership didn't even happen until The Escapists.
Right.
So before that, it was largely just like we were paying money for the most part to be involved, but that was okay because it was fun. And I have like many fond memories of that. So when we went down to things like PAX, the site wasn't paying for it initially at all, and then eventually it would like subsidize it a little bit,
or we would get like free passes.
Eventually we started getting free passes, which was really nice. But in terms of the travel and things like that, at the beginning at least, it was out of pocket.
Right.
It was a real joy to be involved in that stuff and to feel like we were building a community around us, and that was really awesome. Then we got you guys got the Escapist deal with Unskippable initially, and it felt like we were starting to make it even more. That's when the moon bases came along, right?
Yep.
Because for a lot of this time, when we were talking about like meeting in Bill's house, podcasts used to be recorded on the floor of Bill's house. Like the setup was a little bit changed a little bit. Laptop microphone, like a laptop set up in the middle of the room on a coffee table, and all of us huddled around it. So
I think they're all still online if you want to go hear bad takes.
And like what video games we were playing.
Yeah.
Each person talking about the video games they were playing while each other person pulled out their DS and started playing it. We did. So there was a sense that we were starting to make it when you guys got the Escapist deal and were able to rent office space downtown in like a tiny shoebox of an office.
So small.
And like it was a closet.
It's like a quarter of the room that we're in now. Maybe less than a quarter.
It was 200.
200 square feet?
Less than 200 square feet.
I think so, yeah. It was very small.
But then things really opened up when we got the expanded Escapist deal. So the people who are doing video content at the Escapist started talking to us about it. They were like, hey, do you have any other shows you want to pitch? We pitched them a bunch of things. I don't remember whether you and Kathleen had sort of ideated Escapist News Network before that, or it was part of the same thing. Yeah. But we launched a few other things. Loading Ready Run went on the Escapist as well. Money started coming in, and you were able to say, like, hey, if we do this full time, we can take home a reasonable paycheck. Matt, when we were at the Vancouver Island Film and Short Film Festival, in like around this point, like around the time that Unskippable first started, and we asked you point blank how much money you would need to make per year to do Loading Ready Run full time. I will tell you that our responses to your answer were that we would never, no one in Loading Ready Run would ever make that much money, and you were insane, and you should just quit now while you were ahead. How much money do you think you said?
Oh, wow, I'm glad you remember.
I do not remember the answer.
I don't remember this conversation at all.
I truly don't remember the answer to this question. I'm sure my number today is higher.
I would hope so.
$30,000 a year.
Ridiculous.
Unheard of.
Ridiculous. No one could ever make that much money.
Wow.
Oh man.
Canadian.
Yeah.
So, but
that gives you an idea of the kind of money we were talking about.
Yeah.
In terms of like, hey, now we can do stuff full time.
So yeah, and I guess this was the thing when I remember Graham talking to me about these deals with the Escapist News Network, particularly, which I was involved in, and he told me the numbers, and he was basically like, "Don't quit your day job," which, by the way, was Electronics Boutique. So I was in a real hurry to quit that job. But he's like, "Don't quit your day job," but it's this, and it was $35,000 a year, basically, was what it was going to amount to, and I was like, I am quitting my job. I am done. I'm making more than Matt Wiggins said that I needed to make to quit my job. We're doing it. But there was a problem. And the problem is that the world's economy collapsed.
Yeah, man. 2008 was rough.
And so because a lot of the Escapist investors were based in Greece, which got it worse than a lot of other places, they ran out of money very quickly, and the paychecks that we were getting from them very quickly became IOUs. And we stacked those pretty high.
Yeah.
And that goes down in my life as one of the most stressful years that I have ever experienced.
Strongly agree.
It was not a good time. We were having a good time doing the site.
Yeah.
We all went to PAX East that year. It was fun. I borrowed money from Graham to get myself to PAX East because I couldn't pay for it.
Was that 2009 that year? I know I went in 2010 was the first year Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I know I went in 2011, but I don't think I went to the first year.
No, you would have, because the first year was the one where we all went to New York afterwards.
Oh, well, then I did go to that year.
Yeah, Paul did too.
Yeah. There's something about that, like, not only, not having the money, not making money, but knowing that there's this like huge pot of money that's yours that is just not coming for various reasons.
Yeah.
It's so much more frustrating than if it was just like, I'm poor.
Yeah. And
it's like, on paper, I have this, like, this is my money.
I am
owed
owed a debt.
I just can't get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you've committed at some point, you feel like you're committed. And so like, you're like, okay, well, I've been doing this for a year. I've been doing this for 2 years. How am I supposed to turn making funny videos on the internet into like something on my resume? It's not possible. Who's going to hire me?
I've got news for you. It is possible.
It's not a thing. And at the time, it really felt like that too. Like the idea of like the professional YouTuber or whatnot was still like not. It was sort of coming about, but it was not fully there yet.
Yeah.
So definitely, like we had that couple of years, and eventually the Escapists just completely more or less collapsed and told us that they didn't want the series anymore.
Yeah.
And so we moved ENN over to Penny Arcade, PATV, and it became Checkpoint.
Hello, and welcome to Checkpoint. I'm Graham Stark.
And I'm Kathleen DeVere, and we'll be your anchors, unless we test poorly with the target demographic.
But
and they still paid, but way less.
They still paid, but way less.
And then that begat Feed Dump as sort of like a replacement for the Escapist News Network on the Escapist, which again paid way less.
Good day, and welcome to Feed Dump, where all the worthwhile news is thrown out with the trash. I'm Graham. Joining me this week, Paul.
Hi.
And Matt.
Hello.
So let's get to our nudes.
And even for Unskippable, which for a time was their number 2 show, but again the publisher didn't get why it was funny. And already she looks upset to be in this game.
I must do this. And it's for the person who means the most to me.
Archduke Ferdinand of Austria?
My life is nothing compared to his. Doing this is easy if it's for him.
All right, now don't move. Keep very still. Hold. Camera 2. Okay. Nice. Hold.
And so Kratos cast himself from the highest mountain in Greece. We were in this weird position where they were like, we're going to start paying you less for the show. And like, what do we do? If we go, no, then they go, all right, well, then leave. So
they weren't terribly invested in the show.
Yeah, so we were just like, okay, sir, I guess we'll take less money for the same thing.
And also, I mean, it's not like we were even getting. They still weren't paying us regularly.
No, of course not. And so then eventually it reached a point where it was like, A, they were being incredibly shitty about Gamergate, but also B, they were like, as that was bubbling up and getting worse and worse. This was before it reached the peak of crappiness over The Escapist, but as it was bubbling up, they were also like offering a yet further lower amount for Unskippable, and we just went, all right, we're out.
Yeah.
No. Well, you know what? You have now insulted us too long. We're leaving. We're taking all of our toys. Goodbye.
Yeah.
This 10th straw is the last.
But throughout,
God, we gave them so much rope.
Yeah.
Throughout that entire thing, there was also like, Extra Credits was having disputes with them over not getting paid, and then no one wanted to like speak publicly about the fact that they weren't paying anyone, but everyone was sort of feeling it. Who was working for them. It was like it was kind of a rough place to be in.
We had a big. I remember we had a huge conference call.
Right, all the video.
Oh, I remember
all
that.
The content
I was there for
creators,
that.
Right, so it was like us and Extra Credits, and I think Doomsday Arcade was there, and Yahtzee was there, and all
was Jim Sterling there at that point?
Potentially, I don't recall. But also like the cartoonists, like I think Lely was on this call,
Yeah.
and the people behind Critical Miss, and like basically all the like video and comics contributors had this like essentially like almost a unionization call, being like, what do we do with this? And Yahtzee, to his credit, was flabbergasted because he was like, I'm still being paid. They're paying me regularly and very well every week. And I'm appalled to hear that this is how the rest of you are being treated. And he put some pressure on them, which I really appreciate. But yeah, he was like, Jesus, I'm still getting money? What the hell? And so, yeah, and then things really changed after that. Not necessarily for the better. Like, a bunch of people just left, right? But, like, that was sort of the beginning of the collapse.
I mean, it sort of worked out in that these games got bought by
Defy.
And as part of that purchase, they had to pay off all their liabilities, including
which is a really good way for things to have worked out, because they did not have to have worked out that way. So yeah, that sort of leads into like why I left. I left because of the money. No,
that's fair. No,
I mean
the thing is, like, we're making the people who are full time in Loading Ready Run now, who all make the same amount, by the way, are making more than
$30,000.
Yeah, we're making more than that.
I'm glad. I'm genuinely glad.
But not as much more as you would think, considering that was 12 plus years ago, right? Like the economy is a heck of a thing. But also, Victoria's just gotten so expensive. I hate it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So when it came down to it, it was like, hey, I need to go part-time. Was the original thing. I was like, I need to go part-time and figure out some other job that I can do to bring in more consistent money while we figure out where the next source of money is going to come from. And what I did is I started looking around for jobs, and I was like, could maybe be someone's social media manager. So I started looking at local tech and game companies to see if I could get in and do that, because I've been doing a lot of social media for LRR, and I figured maybe I could do video content for them or something. And a game company that was later bought by Amazon I got to their last round of interviews, and they did not hire me, basically because I did not have a university degree. They were like, you're our best candidate, but we need someone who has a university degree. I think that they were like getting a grant or something for the position, and they needed someone who had a university degree to fulfill the requirements of that grant. And so I was like, okay, I need to go back to school. But if I want to go back to school and finish it in a reasonable amount of time, then I need to do it full time. And if I do it full time, I don't have time for LRR, because I had scrubbed out of school. This is something I also did not talk about, but when you were saying, like, you were very conservative with your involvement in Desert Bus 1, you were like, not around very much because you had to work all the time. I did not have that discipline. So I scrubbed a semester of school essentially by doing that, and then dropped out for a while.
Right.
So
in fairness, I did the same thing.
Yeah. When I went back, I was like, I need to give myself the space to actually succeed in school.
And it's something that has come up for other people with Loading Ready Run too. It's like fundamentally, they're full-time employment is great, but there's a lot of stuff where it's like, oh great, we need people to help with this and things. And obviously a lot of legitimate jobs, a lot of more traditional jobs don't have the kind of flexibility that that's something that's more kind of like, oh, hey, you're available? Cool.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's, an unfortunate reality of the situation.
Yeah. And so by the time I finished school and I got an internship at a tech company that was turning into like a potential for a full-time gig, I was just like, okay, I'm going to take that. I want the security. And that's where that all went.
Yeah.
So
I had a slightly similar but slightly earlier trajectory, because I think I moved on earlier. I think basically the conversation you're talking about, that you talked about, which I don't remember at all,
recollection
but I believe happened. That I think forced me to evaluate what I wanted to do, and it was really, really hard for me because I loved doing Loading Ready Run.
Oh yeah.
It was the highlight of my week, and it was fun, and we weren't making any money, but it was like I was just having the time of my life doing it. And my day job at that time was, it was good. I was working at ICBC, and I had, a good union job with benefits and like 6 weeks of vacation time. And
you had a tedious and infuriating union job
but
with benefits.
I was going to say, I've heard good in a manner of speaking, but I've heard other ways where it was not good.
Good in the way that it was very secure and stable, right? And paid well, like paid legitimately well. And that was sort of what drove the like, what would I need to make in order to do it full time? Which is, you know, if I said $35,000 or $30,000 a year or whatever it was, that was less than I was making at ICBC working full time. And it was, but that was like, I could make a go of it at that rate, right? And but I was happy to continue doing it on the weekends, and like it's like, this is not going to be a full-time thing, but it's a great hobby. I love to do it. And at ICBC, I managed to move from the ticket payment job that we both did to a QA testing job because they built all of their own software in-house. And so I moved up to, again, like a better paying job, but even more tedious, and like I hated it even more. And as a part of that, I got to take advantage of an expression of interest, which is ICBC language for like, we're backfilling a position temporarily. And I got to be the road safety coordinator for the South Island of Vancouver Island, which had me responsible for road safety initiatives in Victoria, Duncan, Nanaimo, and like all the smaller communities in the South Island. And that had me like liaising with local law enforcement and with the
no
news.
Memory of this chapter
this was
of your
like
life.
6 months.
Oh, wow.
And like local news and doing all like road safety coordination. I got a guy whose whole thing was putting out those like this is your speed sign, slow down. And his whole thing on Salt Spring Island. And I got him super mad at me because he would do it alone. And I was like, our policy says you have to have one other person. If you get run over by a car, we're going to be liable. Like, you cannot do this on your own. He's like, well, I'm just not going to do it at all. And I ended up having to go over to Salt Spring and like meet with him in the local police department and be like, can you guys give him any support? Like, can we literally get him another person to stand on the road with him so he doesn't get run over by a car? And then my boss had to like come in and smooth the whole situation over.
Oh my God.
Like, oh my God.
Wait, you were in charge of all this and you didn't bring back the elementary school aged car safety village?
No, I didn't.
Oh, I missed Tom Thumb Safety Village.
But that was the most enjoyable experience I had working that job because it was active, and I got to be involved with like legitimate news and that sort of thing.
You didn't have to deal with whatever version of DOS ICBC computers were still running.
That's right. And like, I liked my boss, and I got to travel to the head office in Vancouver on the regular for meetings. Like, I got to travel around the province a bit, and it was great. And then the person who I was covering mat leave for came back. And the hope had been that they weren't going to come back. They were going to stay, be a parent, and like not come back, and I would get that job. But being a union, this job was like 5 steps higher than my current seniority in the company. And I was like, it's going to take me 10 years of waiting. I'm going to have to wait until this person retires before I'll be able to get that job again.
Oy.
And at that point, I was like, I need to find something else to do with my life. I cannot stay here for that long in the jobs that are available to me. And so that forced a series of conversations where I was like, can I do Loading Ready Run? Can I make this a thing? Mm-hmm. And at the time, I don't know. I don't think I ever actually really like had a conversation with either of you about it, because I sort of ruled myself out. Right.
Well,
like, I was like, I just don't have value that I can bring to Loading Ready Run on a full-time basis, because like I can act-ish to the extent that I can act, but
you deliver a great swear.
Hi there, I'm Matt Wiggins, and over the next half hour, I'm going to teach you how you too can be a real son of a bitch.
But I can't edit. Like, I couldn't edit at all at the time, and I didn't really know anything about the cameras, and we didn't really have any apparatus in Loading Ready Run to facilitate the development of those skills. That all came
way later.
Yeah. This
And then
is before we even launched like the Patreon.
Yeah,
like, this
yeah,
was
exactly.
ages ago,
And of course, you then ended up going to Vancouver, which
so that was what led me to that, because then I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go back to school, right? I can't do loading ready run. That won't be a possibility. I'm going to have to go back to school.
To do full time.
Yeah, and so I tossed around a bunch of ideas. It's like I could go do business school. I had a long, hard conversation with my parents when I was like, maybe I want to go to VFS and take acting classes and like become an actual legitimate professional actor. And my parents were like, you realize you'll be waiting tables for the rest of your life. And I was like,
thanks, Matt's
parents.
VFS is Vancouver Film School.
Yeah. Ultimately, I was just looking through programs at SFU, and I caught on to the Master of Digital Media program, which is run through SFU and UBC and so on. And I was like, I've been doing digital media stuff for years. And so I was like, this sounds like a really neat program. It's an applied like digital media master's program. I could get a master's degree and then do something with it. And so I submitted my application and my essay and a bunch of examples of my work, which included my work on Loading Ready Run videos, including the ones the few that I had done editing or writing on. So Joystick.
At this point, I'd like to turn things over to Justin McElroy of Joystick Technologies. As a lead product designer, he worked closely with the LRRtech team in the development of the Joystick, and will discuss with you the technology behind this cutting-edge input device. Justin?
Hi, Dave. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Justin.
Was one of them.
Right. Yep.
The feed dump that I did while you were in Japan, where it was just me playing multiple different characters. That was one of them.
I'd forgotten about that completely.
And you said it would be good on your resume.
Exactly. And so I put all of this on my application and I sent it in. And then we went to PAX East that year,
Right.
which was 2010. No, it was a different year.
One. Okay.
Because I think I went to PAX East twice, and I think they were not concurrent years. I think it was 2012. It would have been 2012, spring of 2012. I went to PAX East, and I got my acceptance letter in my email account while the day we arrived, while we were, I think James and I were meeting Liz in the hotel bar, and we were like just after check-in, and I got the email on my phone telling me that I'd been accepted, and I was like, yay! Yes! And then that was basically like, it was a kind of bittersweet because it was like really exciting that I'd gotten accepted to school, but it was while I was at PAX.
Knowing that this is the
knowing
last
that
PAX
like this is the last one. This
that
is
you'll be at as a member of Loading
that's
Ready
right.
Run. Yeah.
So anyhow, I went and I did my schooling, and I found out much later on through one of the people who was on the acceptance committee, because it was a small class, right? Like 45 people in the whole class, I think, most of whom lived in the school building because it was a combined school and residence. And I found out from one of the people who was on the acceptance committee that I was their last pick.
Wow.
I was the last person selected for the program. They almost cut me because they were like, we don't know what to do with this application. And
The
one of the
wild
members,
card.
yeah, exactly. And then one of the members like advocated for me. It's like, let's give him a chance and see how he does. And I finished with like an A+ average, like top couple of percent of the class.
Hey, sometimes the 23rd card is relevant.
Yeah, exactly. And like that sort of set the stage for the rest of my career, and I went on and I got an internship and now live in Vancouver, and I'm very happy, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss participating in Loading Ready Run.
Oh.
But
and without like,
I'm making more than $30,000
good.
a year.
I hope so. Yeah, without like outing specifics, you're working in gaming.
I am.
Jared's still in tech.
Yeah.
And,
so
yeah,
I mean, like to Matt's point too. Like I have said that year, those couple of years were like the most stressful years of my life. It's not. I'm not exaggerating about that, but at the same time, I mean, I was doing what I wanted to be doing, and I loved every minute of it. And no, I didn't love the times where I was at home, but the times where I was at the office
right.
and we were working on stuff were fantastic. But if we had, in a different time, if we had stuff like the Patreon, figured out, crowdfunding campaigns, these ways that you guys have figured out to carry on the business, it might have been a different situation. I might still be here if that stuff had happened a little bit of a different way. But because of the situation that I was in at that time, I was like, well, I need to make these decisions to keep myself afloat. And as it turned out, that's, I ended up on a different path that seemed like a pretty good path at the end.
It's always so fascinating that the different trajectories, every place, wherever you are in your life is a combination of all these like random chances,
confluence of factors,
things that could have gone one way or another.
I will also say, as a coda to something that we said earlier, I went back to school and I took out a student loan, right? Because I didn't have any money. I took out a student loan, and then while I was at school, The Escapist got bought, and I got paid off, and so I was able to walk in after finishing my degree with my student loan papers and a bunch of money, and just pay off my student loan.
Hell yeah.
Right off the bat.
Student loan, and then just a pile of $1 bills.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, by way of sort of, I guess, progressing to an ending, for this, there was, like from our perspective, I imagine we felt very similarly, and it's like, that sucks because I'm sorry to lose you, and this is true for both of you. Love working with you and love to do all the stuff and make these things. That stuff's all great, but ultimately completely understand and support that you gotta handle your business. And it was never like, I don't think that we ever had any sort of like, oh geez, are you sure kind of conversations. It was always like, yeah, no, I get it. It was a dark chapter for us too, right? We were like, yeah, man, you have an out. I don't know that I do.
I went up for like a couple of like full-time jobs that I didn't get. Like I interviewed for them and I didn't get them. That may have, that maybe would have changed the whole trajectory.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled to have you both back here today, at least to talk about this. And again, still occasionally hanging out and doing stuff, which is nice. So, yeah, no, I've really enjoyed this. If you wish to be found, where can people find you on the internet these days?
That's a good question.
You don't need to answer that.
No, it's okay. I mean, like I use my handle Gooey Duck anywhere that I can.
GU1 Duck?
Depends on the service.
Okay.
And if I can get, Gooey Duck, GUI Duck, then I will do that.
It's a very funny joke.
It is.
I think it's great. I've always loved that name,
joke.
by the way, Gooey Duck.
Thank you. Unfortunately, a lot of other people do as well, so it gets taken up on various services. So, like on most places, or in many places, I am GU1 Duck. But some places, if I was able to get it, GUI Duck. GUI Duck on Twitch, but I'm never on there. I rarely post on Mastodon, Twitter, or Threads, but I'm on all of those things.
Oh, yeah. We are deep in the middle of the battle of the 5 Twitters right now.
Yes. So I don't know. You can find me in those places, but I don't really communicate that much at this point.
You can find me on my Twitch channel 3 days a week. I stream at twitch.tv/Wiggins. I am also on various forms of social media, including Twitter, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Oh God, I do this 3 days a week. I tell you people where they can follow me. I have. Oh my God! Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, do your whole.
I have to do the whole thing.
Up to it.
I'm not prepped for this. I haven't been streaming. Thank you to everybody who follows, everybody who subscribes, everybody who cheers. Oh no, that's not even right. Thank you everybody who subscribes, everybody who follows, everybody who cheers, everybody who chats, and everybody who lurks. I'll be back. Same Matt time, same Matt channel here on twitch.tv/Wiggins. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Wiggins_TV. That's what I was trying to get to.
There we go.
And yeah, that's it. I'm Wiggins on Twitch and Wiggins_TV basically everywhere else.
I love spooling into the sign off. That's great.
No other way to do it.
If you needed, I thought I might have seen a video game console over there, so you could play for a couple hours, and then that would probably get you
like I
warmed
there
up.
we go.
For our purposes, everything we do here at Loading Ready Run is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, or by becoming a YouTube member or leaving super thanks on the YouTube if you so desire. Still can't say super thanks with a straight face.
Monetize.
Yep. Rever may not exist, but again, they sort of forced everyone else to figure out how to do it properly, so that's nice at least. Well, they were the first ones to do it.
Oh yeah.
And then
I was
other
just going to say
people
whether YouTube does it properly or not, I guess is the question.
No, I would like more money.
Yeah.
For whatever it's worth, YouTube, if you're monitoring, I was going to say listening, but no, they're not listening, but they might be monitoring. Hey, this has been a blast. Thank you both so much for coming down to chat today.
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you for having us.
I really enjoyed this. We'll be back next episode, Paul and I, with some more guests from the history of Loading Ready Run, as we talk about the next 2 years. So come back for that. Until then, we'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.